Okay.
Okay,
Because it's yeah. So hi everyone, thank you for joining us today during our discussion for the creative Kuumba Kickback 2020, being a creator of color. Today we are joined by some very illustrious people. And I guess we could start from the top left corner. Kate, if you could start by introducing yourself and what it is that you do, anything else that you would like to say about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Kate Sanchez, pronoun she and her, and I am the editor-in-chief of But Why They Would Geek Community. We're a community of writers and podcasters who talk about everything in pop culture. So movies, TV, video games, comic books, anime, manga, books. We do interviews, recaps, news, like literally everything. But the cool thing about us is our main focus is to consistently uplift marginalized voices from different backgrounds and really put a focus on getting their perspectives on pop culture out there. So a lot of the people at our site are writing for the very first time just because they wanted to get their voices out there on different subjects. I know I was like that when we first started. And then I'm also a podcaster. I podcast on But Why They're the Podcast, which is a pop culture podcast that I started a while ago. And then I also podcast on Did You Have To, which is an anime podcast with my best friend Nisha, where we focus on really creating a space for brown and black women in anime to have a nice space to talk and, show that we're here and we matter in the space too.
How about y'all, Jayme and Jayme? Can you talk about yourselves and your pronouns and a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, well, I'm Jayme and this is Jeremy, and we're the Jayme twins, as we're known, because that's our last name. And we're mostly known for being convention artists or freelance artists. Yeah, you can usually find us behind the table at Comic-Con, Artist Alley. Yeah. Good job.
Okay, and then Stephanie?
I'm Stephanie Williams. I am a freelance writer. Most of my words are at Sci-Fi Fangirls. I tweet every now and then, every so often. I am a comic book writer, I guess, or webcomic writer. My webcomics are But What If Though, and also Parenthood Activate.
Also some things that you have in the works, right?
Oh, wait. Sorry, y'all. And I was just tweeting about it today. Living Heroes was a Kickstarter that I had that was fully funded and is pretty much done. We're just waiting on the last couple pages and some colors.
Yeah, so check out all of the great work. Everyone here has some brilliant things. I think that you should just go find out their stuff after this panel, because if you're watching the panel, we want you to talk to us during the panel. But definitely when you have time, go check out all the things because they're all terrific. So I wanted to start off the conversation with asking, we've all talked a bit about what it is that you create, but how do you create? What is your process? And what is it that motivates you to create the things that you create?
So for me, usually when I create, it's something that I find funny or just kind of want to talk about. So I tweet a lot about comics, stuff that I'm reading, just because reading comics is my happy place. So usually I find inspiration from there, and I used to tweet threads a lot using the still shots from X-Men animated or whatever. And there I said, well, isn't that kind of how you would write a script for a comic, right? So that's just kind of how I got out of my own way and started the webcomics. So that's kind of my process, kind of just watch Real Housewives of Atlanta, a lot of that, Married to Med, and just kind of find just random inspiration and the intersection of things linking, like Nene and someone talking and thinking about Rogue and Carol Danvers.
So for me, I always feel a little bit weird in the creative space because I don't know. I'm just gonna start talking. So I was in a PhD program. It I got my master's, but the PhD did not love me back, specifically the department I was in. So I left that toxic environment. But my work was specifically in how pop culture informs how we shape identity as individuals, specifically how we shape ideas of the other in race, religion, and gender. And when I knew I was going to leave, I realized that my favorite thing really is talking about subjects and researching them. So I started our first podcast, which was But Why Though? And eventually I realized that like this isn't enough. I want to start doing pop culture critique too. I want to start reviewing things. I want to just start writing. And we just kind of started. I started writing, and then we had some interest from some of our listeners that listen to our podcast who wanted to be like, hey, can I use your platform to blog too? And so then I started doing that. And now my process of writing, I don't really know that I have one. I kind of just watch things, and usually if they move me, I kind of just start. But we're a self-funded, and self-funded as in there's no funding site. So it's a lot of just like what brings us joy, or even what just gets us moving. So for me specifically, if there's something I'm watching, like I'm currently working on a piece about the volleyball anime Haikyuu, because I was watching it and it reminded me of a lot of the things that I learned while playing sports, like failure being more important than quitting. And like sometimes you just have to let yourself fail so that you can just keep moving and getting up. And that's kind of how I've been through my whole creative process, whether it was starting a podcast, starting different podcasts, or even just like shooting my shot and getting stuff for the website. And that's something that I kind of tell all my writers too, is just like, as you're writing something, don't worry about it not being good enough. Get that draft in and we'll fix it from there. So that's kind of my take. I don't know if that answered the question, but that's where my brain went.
Thanks for sharing.
That's cool. What was the question? The process, right?
Yeah.
I guess, like, yeah, a lot of people do ask at conventions how we work together since we're twins. And, like, it's hard to answer since we've been twins since we were born. And, like, all we know what to do is collaborate. And we are those kinds of twins that just do everything together. And, like, we haven't been, like, separated a day in our lives. So it's like we're an extension of each other. Like that's why we have it in our profile. They're like, oh yeah, we're very much like Fred and George. Like they're always together. Even share a room. We still share a room. It's like we share like the same purse, and we share the same accounts. That stuff. So
we don't know how to be separate of each other.
So that's the process. But like if we wanted to try and we really love storytelling, and I think that's what we always want to show when we're at conventions, that we're storytellers. Like overall, like first it's storytellers and then artists. But yeah, and I think that's why we like. I lost my train of thought.
Well, we started off like wanting to go into filmmaking.
Yeah.
So like we did live action film, like independent film first, and then like we started like straying into like art, I guess. That it made us actually realize like, no, I just like doing storytelling. It doesn't matter what we do. So. And now we're doing art right now. Yeah. That wasn't really process, was it?
I mean, if you want to talk a bit about like, is there a process? Do y'all have a process for like how y'all go from thinking of a story and then like creating the story through art or however you decide to create it?
Because of like different things that we work on, but I guess like for example, I guess like for our like darkroom series, if you know it, like the photos that we make, the illustrations, like these that we make all the time, like we do a lot of research on them, so like it's just based on
it's basically a prompt.
Yeah, because we really like the story behind everything, so like we just always get it from life, from research, and like just from there. And I don't know.
I like stuff I like stuff that feels really human. Like that got inspired just because we were really into Life magazine, and I was all like, well, I love these characters too. We should make them feel more real, and then that's how that project began.
Yeah, so it sounds like y'all are like inspired and influenced by like things that you see around you like in life, and then it sounds like for Kate and for Stephanie, it's also just like things that like you're fans of, like that kind of draws you to like write and create your own kind of stories around those. Could you talk about any things that like maybe are there any things that influence you or inspire you that are kind of like directly from your culture and how you think your culture kind of inspires you to write stories? Like I know for myself, this is a fanfic. It's called like I'm very like rolling my eyes at myself for not writing my original stories yet. But for like my fanfic story, I'm currently writing one about like a wizarding school, a historically Black wizarding school set in New Orleans, and I'm from the South, and I'm just like I want to tap into my Southern roots and talk about what magic could look like in the South. So how about y'all? And I also went to an HBCU for college. So that was like, I have to do a Black school. Like I have to do it. So do y'all have anything similar, like where you've created something based out of like your own cultural kind of like influences?
Yeah. I just, well, I don't mean to say it like that, but
yeah.
I just kind of feel like it just comes out a lot of times, not intentionally, but just because, I'm just like, expressing myself the way that I normally would. So it shows in that way. So for Living Heroes, for instance, I just thought it would be really important to show Misty, Storm, and Monica Rambeau tying their hair up for the night, or talking about different hairstyles that they've had and how that's affected them being heroes or whatever. So I feel like it comes out in that way, or thinking about Misty with that bang, and if it was like gel down with Ampro gel, the fact that if she sweated, it would burn her eye. So just little things like that, just knowing from my own experience playing basketball and like a fool going out there with a slick down Ampro gel bang and my eyes stinging, and learning that that is just not a good idea. So just little things like that, or with Parenthood Activate, just parenting and being a mom and just kind of letting that influence my storytelling for that particular webcomic. So yeah, I think a lot of times maybe it is intentional for some stuff, but a lot of stuff is just unintentional because I'm just being me and I'm Black. So it's going to be Black.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think very much in the same way and I've kind of become more cognizant that like I may have different I will have different critiques than some people when I watch a film just because of my own background. So I'm Chicana, and I say that specifically because I don't feel like Latina really encapsulates my identity because I'm Mexican American, but more specifically, I'm like 8th or 9th generation Mexican American. Like we've been here for so long, and specifically I'm Tejana, so like I'm tied to Texas, and very, very, very deeply. And so whenever I critique something or I start tweeting about it, a lot of it is like I need people to realize that for me, being a Chicana is the most important part of me, in my opinion, because it shapes everything I do. It shapes how I view media. It shapes how I receive media. And it's going to come up in my criticism. And that's not something that I can keep out. Like when you come to me with something to, like, if I get an email from a comic creator to like look at their comics, like, okay, cool. I'm gonna review this, but like there has to be an understanding that I can't just put the brown side of me away. Like that's always gonna be there. And when I think about like something I've created that was deeply tied to that, my favorite piece I've ever written was actually a piece on horror and why horror is so it's in my bones, like it's in my DNA. It's who I am. And it's because growing up, my grandma used to scare me with stories of La Llorona. Like we would be playing outside and she would like put her head out the window and fake cry, like going, mis hijos, mis hijos. And it was terrifying. But like that type of fear connected me to the horror movies that I watched, or the fact that we had a kukui room. Like the kukui is something that was going to come and take you away. And that reminded me of Freddy Krueger. And so I sat down and I started just unpacking all these connections that actually connected me to these pretty white horror films, because horror is real white a lot of the time. But as I unpacked it for myself, I realized that there were just pieces of me that I saw in those things because of the stories I grew up with. And because I'm Mexican, that is how I process death. It's how I process horror. And it's not a foreign concept to me. Like, horror has just always been around me. It's also why I lead building out our horror section on the site. Like, I run point on a lot of a lot of the Shudder titles that we review and stuff like that. And it's because I just really want to cultivate I want to cultivate a horror space where I see more people that look like me. And it's the same thing in anime and manga, but like it's just, I don't know, like I felt like, especially coming from academia, I tried, like, they tell you to check your identity at the door a lot of the times. And so it was a lot of me realizing, no, my identity is actually really, really important to this conversation, because all of you are like cis white dudes who were like in academia for like 3 generations at this point. My identity is actually vital. And so a lot of my career in entertainment journalism and entertainment media and even just content creation has been building down that wall that they made me build up, and finding strength in the fact that, no, I am a brown woman, I am a Latina, I am Chicana, and that's important. And other people need to see that importance too.
Okay, that was really cool here to say, both of you. But I think, like, because we come from like we're first generation, so like I noticed like only like recently I was like, where do when we make our own stuff, I actually don't draw people like me a lot. Like, we only realized it recently, like last year or the year before. Until like there were actually people that were asking us, not we did a couple of screenplays, like they were commissioned to do those. So, but they wanted it to be, we're Filipino, if that wasn't obvious. But yeah, so they wanted it to center around Filipino American, who we were and our culture. And I was like, oh, you want to see that? Like, we felt more like that. And I think it's just because we're just really new here still. So I don't know if it just comes from that. So we're still just trying to figure out ourselves still here in America. So I know that in a lot of our work, though, we were like, actually, since I keep putting this in here, this must be really important to me. Or
everything we do like always like centers around like familial relationships or siblings stuff. Like, we love it like way more than like I think a lot of stuff in Hollywood right now is always like centered around like romance and stuff. And I was never really into it, and I was all like, but I always loved the family stuff, and everything we create always had like to have familial relationships all the freaking time. And I'm like, I think it's probably because we're Filipino, Jay. And so I love that stuff.
Yeah, I love how much it's like, it's very much like whatever is like the personal is the like from like political or whatever, and that like our identities are very much tied to what it is that we like or what are the things that we're going to like talk about. And it may not be like the whole conversation, but it's going to be part of the conversation because that's our whole lens in the first place. And I love that like you can't create from a place that's like doesn't involve that in some way. So I love thinking like you're talking about like projects and screenplays that you've worked on. And I just wondered about like any storytelling that you are like, you would like dream, like your dream things that you would love to create and put out in the world, and you know how that would tie in with you personally, and how, or what other else things that you would like to do with it. What are some dream projects that each of you have?
Aliens. Give me.
That's awesome.
I just I don't know why. Something about it. I don't know if that was like my first being in sci-fi that I just really gravitated towards, but like it's just always been a thing. And the world building is just so interesting to me. That first movie, it talks about so much that's still relevant today about just the fight between the abuse of the working class by corporations and how that looks. And, the fact that Ripley could have been, is basically, was written as a, either could have been a man or a woman today, hopefully non-binary. So like, I love that there is no, she wasn't written a specific way. Evil robots. Who doesn't love evil AI? It's just everything about it is just, I just feel like there's so much more that can be done with it, that would speak to a lot of things. And with shows like Watchmen and Lovecraft bringing in the Green Book and Tulsa for Alien, it's like, it's right there. Experimentation on Black people historically, bring that in there. Why would Wailing Yutani not be interested in that? So it's just, give it to me. Now that Marvel has bought or the rights or whatever, listen, Monica Rambeau, Xenomorphs, and Ellen Ripley. I don't know how, but I'll figure it out.
That sounds
dope. And then Alexa Woods. Can't forget about AVP. So like, just give it to me, please.
You're asking nicely, Yeah,
I
am. Mine is I would like to consult, and I don't have a property really because Latinx representation on TV still remains abysmal. We have
canceling things.
Yeah, we have. There is not a Latinx-led show on network television currently. They canceled it. Beauty and the Baker. It's not there. And beyond that, a lot of the times it's really hard for me because when I see stories on TV and stuff like that, a lot of the times it's either focused on Latin America or it's focused on an immigrant experience. And while I think that that's important, I think that there's a large swath of Latinx that get left out of that. When you think about New Yorkers, who have they're Puerto Ricans who have their identities formed by New York. When you think about Tejanos, like, we've always been in Texas. Like we've never been another place. Like I could never go back to Mexico. I have no point to go to Mexico ever because that's not where I'm from. Like I'm native here. My grandma had native blood plus the Mexican blood. And it's this idea that there's so much of this otherness that happens to the Latinx community that like we're always one step removed from American. We're never seen as anything but that. And I think it's one of the reasons why our representation is still lacking across the board, because people just see us as somebody who doesn't belong here, with ignoring the fact that we've built the Southwest. Like the entirety of Texas we've been integral to here. And so for me, when I see a show about Texas and there's no Latinx, and specifically there are no Mexican Americans there, I don't watch it. I just check out. Or I see something like Penny Dreadful, where like Natalie Dormer was the star, but you said you were basing it on Chicano folklore. There's so many things that happen that ignores the experience of our community, which is very much American. Like we shaped these experiences in these states and these cities. Like I'm from San Antonio originally. I didn't know that brown people weren't the majority in places until I moved out, because like that city is 70% Latino. And 90% of those Latinx in that city are Mexican American. So I was surrounded by my culture. And when I left, it was like, oh crap, here we go. I mean, I faced racism and stuff in San Antonio because my people are not great. They're real bad all the time. But for me, when I look at media, like I just want to be able to consult on something like that tells a story like mine, that tells a story like my family's, because like when I look back at my own history, like my grandma had a kindergarten education. My grandpa had a first grade education. They got paid 20 cents to go pick cucumbers when they were children. Like, and they did that as migrant farm workers, and they didn't immigrate anywhere. They were still doing that here. And that led to my grandpa initially joining the army and going to fight in World War II, dealing with all that bull, and then coming back and, starting a family. And now I'm where I am, and I'm just one generation removed from somebody who got paid cents because it was more important to pick vegetables than to get an education at all. And so for me, when I see that type of story, like that informs what I do. And I want to see more of that on TV. And I want to see more of that that's outside of gang life. I want to see more of that is just us being us, or like, hell, put us in fantasy, put us in something. And so I want to eventually be in a space, like, I don't think I can write that, but I think I can be a consultant on that, because Spanglish is very specific. We don't, like, Spanish is not monolithic, but Spanglish itself, how it's taken form in Texas and California and Arizona, it's spoken with such nuances that I think more people need to embrace that than trying to do like proper Spanish. And so that would, I just want to be a consultant. That was a really long way for me to say I want to help somebody else's vision, but that's what I want to do.
I love that you know your lane specifically. It's like, can I write it? No, but I can. You know? How about y'all?
How we want to do everything. We're total dreamers. Like, our like idol is like Walt Disney, and like he like went into everything. So then like I kind of we want to make like live action films. We want to make animations. We want to do like TV shows, and also we want to create our own medium. Like I always think, I don't know, my head's everywhere. Like I always think like, well, like, oh, we could do this and we could do this, and like we're combining mediums all the time. Like that's why we jump from like live action film, then like, oh wait, no, like let's do now we're doing like conventions right now. I'm at the same time I'm also writing screenplays, and now we're working on a graphic novel. So it's like I'm everywhere, and I want to do it all. Like I don't know, it's just like in our bones that like I'm a storyteller, and I just want to tell it all different ways. It doesn't matter.
That actually makes a lot of sense. I feel like a lot of the times people are kind of like afraid to create because their brains are taking them in so many different places. So they're just like, am I actually good at a thing if I want to do a billion things? But it's like, you can be good at things as long as you're consistently telling a story in a way that's like comprehensible. If you're like, I want to tell this very esoteric story just using claymation, and then I'm going to swap it over to live action, and then you're like, no, that's not how it works. Sorry. But I love that you're like open to letting yourself just like kind of like go on the journey of like whatever you feel like creating at the time. Mm-hmm. And like with that in place, that's like talking about like forward thinking for the future. But you know, you kind of like you're creating yourself and your work now. So can you talk a bit about like how you got to where you are currently when it comes to your like career and like what you're working on? How did you get here?
Oh, that was a journey. So I went to school thinking that I wanted to be a doctor, and then that was a no, because I really found out that I like people, but not like that. So I got into the research side of things, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. So researched my way out of college and got a job in North Carolina from Chicago, and started working in an electron microscopy lab, became an electron microscopist. And that is just a very fancy term for someone who takes high resolution pics of very small things and and works back and forth with the pathologists and other researchers. So did that for like 6-7 years, and it was fine for the first 2 or 3 because it's a 9-to-5, it's stable. I'm getting a check every 2 weeks. I've got benefits. It's fine. And then it wasn't fine anymore because I really wasn't happy. So I thought I wanted to pursue my PhD, and found out that was a lie. My heart really just wasn't in it. It was just something that I was going to do because it was the next thing to do. Mm-hmm. But just because it's the next thing to do doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So got into podcasting, and which is weird because, like, I promise y'all, I am shy. Doesn't seem that way, but I really am. And podcasting really pushed me out of my comfort zone, and I got comfortable expressing myself and talking about the things that I was reading or things that I was watching. Got into a show called Misty Knight's Uninformed Afro, where we focused on Black women superheroines, because I thought that was important. Because again, like, I'm a Black woman. I'm reading Marvel Comics, DC, Image, whatever. I usually gravitate towards the stories that have maybe 1 or 2 Black folks in it. And I just kind of wanted to talk about that. So did that and got really, really comfortable and decided to start writing about it. And I don't know, like 2018, my job was like just really killing me, really. It was stressing me out that way. And coworker, like my sixth coworker in like 5 years left. I was the only person working in the lab. So it was just me. I think my boss had taken off like a month of work. So it was just me there by myself. And I was like, I can't do this. So left that, started working from home. And then when I got let go from that job, about maybe 7 months in, I think actually my husband was just like, hey, why don't you focus on writing? You've like been getting opportunities with that. Like, why don't you see what happens if you're able to give it 110%? So with much hesitation and just stepping out into the unknown, because it still is, I went ahead and did that. And then next thing I knew, I was like writing a lot for fangirls and getting other opportunities and did the webcomic and then put out a Kickstarter, not even knowing what the hell I was doing. And here I am being asked to be on panels like this from a career that went from being a lab rat to being creative, and coming from a scientific background is actually a little bit more similar than I thought it could be, because there's a lot of research that goes in. Kate, you mentioned it. Yeah. I think that's why I gravitate towards it, because I get to research and I love that. And I love to tell people what it is that I learned and put my own spin on it. So very, very, I told you it was long, but that's how I am. That is why I am here today.
I love how so many of these stories are kind of like mirroring each other. Like sidebar, I used to work for a research center, and I was thinking about going for my PhD, and I was like, oh, do I want this? Like, everyone around me is getting their PhD, and it's clearly the next step in the career ladder to get to wherever this is, but is this what I want? And I ended up actually was kind of like hating the job, and my therapist was like, you literally just have to get a new job. Like, your life is fine, you just need to get another job. And I finally got another job. And I'm still doing research, but it's like on stuff that's more like, before I wasn't researching anything I actually cared about like that. And now I am. Mm-hmm. Now I can kind of build out what I wanted to look at, like public opinion and like media content, stuff like that. But I'm also in a place of like, I also want to write things. And it's hard writing and then also being like holding yourself accountable to write like academic things. So it's really interesting seeing all these like ties. Everyone has like, yeah, are we going to do a PhD? No. But like, do we want to do something else? Yeah, let's work on that. So it's really great hearing like being a creator is a lot of like checking in with yourself and like figuring out like what's going to help you be you and do what you want to do.
Yeah, I think to like add on to that. So it's really weird, or I'm in a weird spot because like I don't get paid for what I do, which is fine with me because I use all of my time to build a platform for other people, and that's my focus. I mean, I love what I do and I love my writing and I love my podcasting. What I really love is the community that we've been able to build for other people to really find a home and find a place, because that to me is more important. So I have a full career right now. I work in D&I. I'm a research analyst in tech, specifically on looking at how to help diversify spaces and recruiting. And I love the work that I do. And it comes from when I was wrapping up my time with my PhD, I had started doing, I was a program coordinator at a nonprofit that focused on allyship training and upstander training for both like the public and private spheres. So like we write white papers on, it was probably the most fulfilling job I had, in that I got to get into rooms with people and teach them how to be better people. But at the same time, like I was writing white papers on hate crimes, and which meant I had to read so many databases on hate crimes. And that was really hard. So I didn't go into the nonprofit space. But moving into tech was actually really scary, because the only reason that I can do what I do now is because I do have a stable job. But that came from like me coming home, and I didn't realize how damaged I had become in my PhD program. My husband did, and he was like, you're literally crying every day. Like, this isn't okay. And I was like, but I'm good at what I do. He's like, yeah, you're good at what you do, but these people are literally driving you insane. Like, you're not, like, your mental health is not good. You're having a bad time. And I was like, at the time he had just finished his master's in biology and he was in a research lab, and he was like, early stage researchers don't make money.
Yeah.
And I was making grad school money. And I was like, we're not going to be able to pay the bills if I don't take out student loans. And he just sat me down and he was like, I don't want you to think about that. Think about what is going to make you happy. We have figured out money every other time, because both of us grew up real poor. He was just like, we'll get through it. And so that was like the push I needed. Like somebody else had to tell me how unhappy I was. And then I went into tech, and that's kind of where I'm at now and doing D&I work. And then that just translates into how we've been building out the site, to kind of focus on D&I without necessarily even meaning to, which sound at first we didn't mean to, and now we mean to, which is kind of the natural progression of like, hey, we run spaces and we don't exclude people. And now I'm starting to talk more on Twitter about my work in D&I. But like my journey is just really weird, and it's still not even in one cohesive place right now. And I don't know if it'll ever be in a cohesive place. But I have fun doing it, and it's kind of not, some days I remember like, oh, I can just quit this and just go to my day job and not deal with harassment or not deal with crappy people, and I would be fine. I could delete Twitter, I could turn off everything, and I would be fine. But then I remember that it's not about me. It's about the people that I'm uplifting and bringing with me, and that keeps me going like on those really, really dark days. But yeah, I also had a very windy path, and talking to y'all on here are making me feel really good for having a windy path, because sometimes it feels very lonely.
Yeah.
Yes, we feel validated. Like how we started, like we didn't have like very supportive parents, like in what we actually wanted to do. So when we started out in high school, we were really interested. We got interested into wanting to do.
Your audio is chopping up a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like if you can move your mic closer, maybe.
Yeah, or I can move closer to them. Can you hear us?
Yeah, it's better now.
Okay, yeah. When we had started out in high school, we actually wanted to go into film, and we told our parents that, can we go to film school? And they're like, So yeah, that crushed my heart like a lot. And then from then on, we were always very like undecided. Like, oh, do you know what you want to do? Yeah, I don't want to upset them. Like, they're my parents. So from then on, I always said I was undecided. Mm-hmm. And so we went to college for the closest we could find to film, which was media and communications. And immediately after that, I don't know, we thought we could take it on ourselves. I was like, I'll fund a film by myself and make a live action film. And it was a lot of just being very, very naive and basically making mistakes and learning from them. So like we just like got like all these like we went to like every single one of our classes, and we're very, very introverted. We were really shy too. I didn't even know, like thinking back at it now, I don't know how I was even able to do this. Which is we went to each one of our classes and we said that we're making a film. So if anyone wants to volunteer and be part of our crew, you can be part of our crew. And amazingly, there were some people, and we had the skeleton crew. And then like we wrote like this script while we were in college, and then after we graduated, we just made this film out of like this money in our pocket, and then we became broke, but at least we made one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to get the creation under your belt, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then like after that, we knew like, okay, this costs a lot of money to keep doing this. So we were like, I like drawing too. Like when out we really like storytelling. So
Yeah,
then
started
we
making
kind of
fan art
skewed
and-
that way.
yeah.
Like then we started like just putting our art a lot on social media, and then like some pop culture galleries are like, hey, you want to show on our gallery, and then we're like,
We're good?
Yeah, we're like, we're good. Okay. And then but like and that turned into doing conventions, so now that's where we are at right now.
You're like, we're gonna get funding for any future projects that cost money. We're gonna get funding by our art, and then we're gonna come back. That is so fun. So I wanted to spend this time kind of like giving. So someone actually asked in the comments. Let me make sure I get this question out. Nicole asked in the comments, who are other creators you would like to collaborate with in any medium?
I want to collaborate with all of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Off top.
Yeah.
Mona Scott Young doesn't count, so I won't say Mona Scott Young. I don't know.
I'm trying to think of. I mean, the obvious would be like, I don't know, like Ryan Coogler for the next Black Panther, right? Like let me talk on that.
Specifically, just so Storm is so I will. That's the only contribution I want to make is convincing him to not put Storm in it.
Please.
That's all I want to do. I just want to whisper off that, like, don't do it.
I guess like I just want to interview Guillermo del Toro. Like that's really all I want. Like if I get to do that, I will have hit everything that I have ever wanted to hit.
You don't want Guillermo del Toro to be like, oh, like you want to be part of my next project?
Oh, I would love that too. So like the low standard of like Kate Can Die Now is just interviewing him, but like I would love to just coordinate with anything with him because he kind of gave me the vocabulary to talk about like why horror is important to me as a Chicana. So like he's very vital to my identity, and I would just love to. I don't know. I want to interview, talk with him. I'll be a background ghost. Put me in some weird ass put me in some weird makeup, and I'll just sit in the background and like hover around you at the crafts table. I'd be fine with that too.
How about y'all? Is there any like? Well, you mentioned Walt Disney. Do you want to work with Disney one day in some capacity, or you have any other like good creators?
I work with Walt,
right?
But maybe happen. But yeah,
I would work for Disney if we could, for sure. Like I know when we were in high school, all of our friends were always saying like, are you gonna work for like Pixar or something? Because we always were the artist kids. And then I was always in my head, I always thought like, oh, but I wanted to go into live action, but I guess I could do that too. I was like,
very ambitious. Yeah. Everything. And so, okay, so follow-up question about like general, just because like thinking about like what you could do and what you would want to do, I think a lot of people are trying to figure out like how to even get in. This is why I asked the question about like how y'all got on, how y'all's journeys work, because it's like people still are trying to figure out their entryways. And it's fun to know that like there's no like really clear entryway. So I want to go through some different topics that people like to get advice from people that have done the thing before, just to get that advice. So one is advice for imposter syndrome. Like how, do you have any advice for getting over imposter syndrome?
Honestly, have a best friend or have somebody in your life who can just shake you. Like it, like, cause it sounds weird, but like sometimes, and like, I feel it both in tech and in writing, like, it's just like, sometimes you can't see past everything that you're in. And sometimes you just need somebody who knows you and knows that like fear that you're having at that moment to just shake you and say, look, you did X, Y, and Z. Nobody thought you could do X, Y, and Z, but you did it. You're here and you belong. Because I can stand in my mirror and write affirmations all day. That stuff has never worked for me. But I have friends who know how to give me that tough love that I need sometimes to just be like, you are okay and you belong here. And it sounds weird to go for outside affirmation on it, but sometimes just having somebody who's close to you, who would tell you, hey, that dress is ugly, go change, we're not leaving the house like that. Going to that person who can affirm you, that's been how I've gotten through stuff. And sometimes they just know, and you don't even have to tell them what you're going through. They'll just be like, yo, I know you're feeling bad right now, stop it. And that's what's helped me.
I don't know, I guess remembering that opportunities and things that have come my way have come because I've been myself. So like if I was being authentic and real to begin with, then the imposter never existed. So I think that's been something that I've been really trying to remember, like, hey, you were asked to do this thing because of, the people know what they're going to get. So that's why you were asked to do that thing. So just trying to be confident in that and remember it and find peace in it. It's not always there, but definitely something that I'm working on, but it helps. And also to Kate's point, just having people in your corner that hype you up when you need it and remind you that, no, you actually really are amazing. So just because you can't stand in that truth right now, it's all right. I'm going to pull you up and I'm going to make you stand in it because you need to realize it.
Yeah.
We get a lot of people that come up to us at our table and ask that a lot, I guess. Like that, it's like, what is your advice for imposter syndrome? And I'm like, I still have it. Like, I think it like never go away.
Yeah.
It'll come back.
And then they're like, oh, you have it?
Like
but
right now,
like
you're
right
at
now?
Comic-Con. It's all like, so?
Yep.
Yeah, so, but like, I think like the most recent thing that we've like told someone who had asked that, I think we were just at C2E2 in February. There was this guy that was just asking us all those kinds of questions, and you could tell that he's just like really afraid to fail.
Commit. It's like he just wanted to be an artist in an artist alley. I was like, yeah. A lot of people ask us this, or like, what school should I go to, and
what program do you use? But I think it's all coming from the same place. I think we just tell them to remember, like, what do you want to be remembered for? And I think that usually puts the fire under your butt because it's just kind of that, I don't know, just like make you just do it anyway, even though you're scared. Like, you know?
Yeah.
Like we always tell ourselves that.
Yeah, sometimes just need another push to be like, stop playing, go do what you need to do right now, just go. So another advice point. So burnout, everyone's doing a bunch of different things. There's a lot going on currently in the world. It's hard to, like, especially if like the present day informs the things that you do every day. Like it's really easy to get burned out from trying to keep up with all the things that are going on every day. So how do y'all all deal with burnout?
Mine's kind of gonna be similar to my last answer. I don't know what it's like to not be tired. I know that just sounds weird or like
Sad.
And I think a lot of women of color, especially, like, we've been taught that we're gonna have to be tired. We've been taught that we're gonna have to work harder, and it kind of just lives in my brain. And so when I'm exhausted and I'm hurting, I don't even see that I am doing that. Like, I don't even see that I should take a step back. And it really does take my husband being like, hey, you just made 3 mistakes. I'm not telling you this because it's bad. I'm telling you this because you need to slow down. Like, this is your exhaustion is manifesting and you need to take time to yourself. And so, like, for me, I've just, like, my mom worked 3 jobs my entire childhood. I worked 2 jobs in high school. I worked 2 jobs in college. I'm effectively working 2 jobs right now, but one doesn't pay me. Like, I've always been stretched so thin that like I've never felt okay to admit that I'm burnt out, but also I've never learned what that barrier is for me. Like what is just hardworking and what is, oh my God, I need to stop because I can't work past this. And so like this year, I've been trying to take a lot of time in understanding my limits and understanding the difference between I can push through this and no, I need to take time for myself. And it's been really hard. And I'm still not good at it. Like I do rely on my husband a lot to kind of be like, hey, I'm noticing these issues. Like this is what you do when you're past that point. Like you got to take care of yourself. And that's probably not a healthy thing to do, but I'm assuming people out there are like me sometimes where we don't know where that off button is or when to hit it. Like if you're trying to monitor yourself, like if you're seeing yourself make mistakes, don't beat yourself up about those mistakes. Ask yourself, oh, would I have made those mistakes if I had been able to go to bed 3 hours earlier than what I did instead of working on that project? Oh, maybe if I had only committed to these 2 things instead of these 4 things, that wouldn't have popped up. And kind of like just asking yourself questions as to why things happen, because our exhaustion will manifest itself in different ways. I get really angry when I'm really tired. Like I don't like people asking me questions like when I'm exhausted. Like I get real snappy real quick. And so I have to be like, oh, why did I just yell at my husband for asking me for a hug when he came into my office? Oh, I need to step away from the computer. Yeah, really long-winded again. I'm sorry. I don't know how to not talk. But burnout's hard. I don't know.
Anyone else have advice for burnout or recognizing burnout or avoiding burnout? Because that's actually proactive. How do we avoid the burnout?
No idea.
Like all of last year, almost all of last year, we were burnt out from like doing a billion cons in 2018. I think we just didn't realize that that's what we were doing to ourselves. Mm-hmm. And then until like we tried to take a break from a lot of like if you look at our schedule, like in 2019 we did way less conventions than 2018, and it made a difference. And I guess it made us really look at who we are and like what we actually value, I guess. And that became like it's not worth like my time and my happiness. So like it's like do I really need all of this like to go to this convention because like I need the money or because just because. So like, and most of the time we had to just really make that decision to say no to things. And it's really hard still. Mm-hmm. Like we're still learning how to say no to some stuff.
Yeah, I don't have that barometer. I really need to build it up. I cannot say no to things. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. It's an interesting thing to do. I should do it. And be like, okay, but can you? Do you have time to do the thing?
You know what? I think for me, you brought that up, Porshèa, because doing stuff, saying yes to stuff that I knew I shouldn't have said yes to, and then being saddled with the well, now I have to do it, and like trying to remember like how that felt, and not want to deal with that again. So I guess but I'm a mom, so like I don't know. I literally do not know what off means. I just don't. And sometimes like I have to be told to go sit down somewhere a lot of times by my son and also my husband as well. Like, yo, you're doing a lot right now, Mom. Please go sit down.
Like rein that in.
Like rein it in. And I get really just like short and snappy and turn into a complete monster. So usually they're like, yeah, you're doing too much.
Yeah. So another advice thing. So there's the other end of like burnout. I think it sometimes it has to do with burnout. Sometimes it has to do with just general like trying to figure out yourself and like what it is that you actually want to do. Right? Is that sometimes you see other people get things and there's kind of related to the things that you do, and you're like, well, shoot, am I missing out on opportunities? Like, are you kind of feel like a FOMO or like just like a comparing yourself to others? Like, and it's not literally like a jealousy sometimes it's just literally like a feeling of you're not competent enough because you're not getting similar things, right? So how do you deal with those emotions when those happen?
It's tough. But I think I try to remember is I didn't get that thing because it wasn't meant for me to get. And also it's probably a good thing because it probably would have made a fool of myself because it wasn't meant for me to get. Either being not ready yet for that opportunity or it actually being outside of my lane. So just trying to remember that. But it's still hard sometimes because like, you know, you want the nice thing that looks shiny and you're wondering why you didn't get that opportunity yourself. But it's really just remembering like, hey, what's for you is for you. So it'll come and just kind of just trying to keep that in mind.
Yeah, for me, it's less of stuff that I don't get personally and more of stuff that like getting access is really hard. I mean, it's hard when it comes to comics. It's hard when it comes to movies. It's ridiculously hard when it comes to video games. And it's me and my husband running all these things, and I'm essentially the face most of the time. So I do the majority of all of the talks and stuff, and then I hand it over to him once we do get access. But it hurts sometimes because I go and I do look at other sites that got the access, and I'm like, analytically we're better. Why are we not getting things? And it's hard to take because it feels less like it's against me and more that it's against the community. Like I feel like a mom, just a mom sometimes where I'm like they're doing great things. Pay attention to them. And what I've started doing is to take that frustration and understand that there will be a next time. I didn't get on it this time, but there will be a next time. And so we have plans laid out to see if we can get access to different things because like we're gonna try it again. And then we're gonna tweak that plan if that doesn't work. And it's just kind of like this time didn't work. It's consistently looking for the future. Like this didn't work, but it can work in the future. Let's just keep working towards it is how I see it. And sometimes it's really hard, but I mean, hard work doesn't scare me. So I'll work harder. I just got to know that there's a light there, which is also why like anything that I do get, I try to share with folks who look like me doing the work that I'm doing that I know are struggling too, especially in like film and everything like that, because it's all about who you know. And if it stays like that, nobody behind me is going to get to come through that door again. So I'm always making sure that like I'm opening that door and I'm propping that open as soon as I get in.
Yeah. We're getting low on time, so I'm gonna I'm gonna let y'all have it first. Jayme twins. My wrap up question is: what is something that is exciting you right now? Like what makes you kind of inspired and keeps your spirit up when everything can kind of keep you down right now?
Yeah, consuming great stories, I guess.
Like which stories? Which stories are you watching right now that are exciting to you, or reading, or interacting with?
Most recent thing that we consumed lately, I don't want to say something. What are you thinking? Oh, because like lately we've been really working on our graphic novel right now. So I was trying to think of the last thing that I actually consumed.
Well, if your graphic novel is making you happy, then you can go on and plug your graphic novel and say how exciting it is, right? Like pick up your own thing.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're working on a graphic novel, which is Medusa. So we're doing like tons of research just on like Greek mythology and stuff. So that I don't know. I like reading stories like that. It makes me happy. It inspires me to just keep creating all the time. And yeah, I don't know if that's a good answer.
It is. Your own work is worthy. That's the whole point of the discussion. Anyone else? Anything else exciting, y'all?
My son discovering Mario Brothers. That's been fun. He's like really obsessed with it. So, and just actually just him discovering a lot of stuff that I love growing up has been just really fun to experience and watch. And it's actually made me feel good about a lot of stuff. So Super Mario Brothers movie is actually a good movie, and I'm willing to die on that hill.
Because it brings joy to the world.
Yes. Yes.
How about you, Kate?
Anime and manga right now. It's really weird. 2020 has been a year of a lot of doors shutting just because of cons and stuff like that and plans falling through. But for whatever reason, we've grown out our manga and anime section of the site a whole bunch. And that's something that I've been leading with my best friend, who's also a member of our staff and also shakes me out of all my imposter syndrome when it happens. So getting to do that with her and getting to do anime and manga with her, like we're currently covering the same film festival. And there are anime live adaptations at that film festival. So like getting to experience this medium with her has been like my favorite thing. And then also seeing success in that space and getting it to celebrate it with somebody has been really amazing. So that's where my happiness is coming from.
Yay. So most of these sound like it's like activities that you do with others. It's not like your joy is coming from the piece itself. It's about like living those experiences with other people. That's so fun. It's like a warm way to finish up this panel. So if we could, can you please just plug all the things? I know we had it at the top, but it doesn't never hurts to self-promo again. And if you maybe thought of anything else that you've been working on that you didn't say earlier, share that now. Where can people find you? Social media, websites, whatever. Where can people support your work?
You can find me at OMMythRandier on Twitter, and you can follow our site at But Why Though PC, where we have all of our writers' stuff goes up through there, as well as all the podcasts. And then you can head over to butwhythoughpodcast.com to read all those things. And if you're a fan of the Crunchyroll original anime, The God of High School, we have a lot of exciting content coming related to that anime that I can't talk about yet. But if you watch it over the next couple of weeks, you'll see some cool things. So come there for that.
You can follow me on Twitter at Steph_I_Will, where I'm always talking about comics or ruining your favorite childhood animated series the best way that I can. Living Heroes will be available for everybody to check out in December. So I'm really excited about that. And I will have some bylines by Marvel coming out. So please be on the lookout for that. They decided to bring me on to freelance write for them instead of telling me to cease and desist. So I'm very happy about that. So be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, you can find us at Jayme Twins on Instagram mostly, and Twitter, I guess. And we're on the Artist Alley here at Black Girls Create. Buy their t-shirt.
Yeah, they designed a Black Girls Create t-shirt. It's on what is it on? It is on DFTBA Records, their website. It is, I swear. So if you're into Harry Potter at all, we got all the girls of color from the series together on one t-shirt, and they designed it, and it's amazing. So definitely pick that up.
That's like my favorite commission of the year.
Yay!
I'm excited to get one.
Yay! So that's all for our Being the Creative Color panel today. Thank everyone for joining us. Please hit up everyone at their websites that they outlined and talk to them on social media. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks.